Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Utah Film Pod. It's a great September day. My name is Josh Terry. I'm here with Dani Hatch, and we've got some movie stuff to talk about. How we doing, Dani?
We're doing great. We're alive. We're surviving. Everything's good.
Is it that drastic? Is it that? Is it the first alive and surviving? That suggests a time of stress.
No, I don't know. It got me thinking because, we're recording this a little earlier on in the day than usual, and my dad, for a little while, got some advice from, some work conference thing. When you get up, you should, stand up, move your arms, and be like, I'm awake, I'm alive, and I feel great. So, for some reason, that's in my head right now.
No, I hear you. It is a little, obviously, we have other things going on in our lives, and that's kind of why some of this stuff gets shuffled around.
Yeah.
This actually reminds me of when I was teaching through Zoom a little while ago, and even though I was on Zoom, because of course the joke is oh, if you're on Zoom, you don't have to get dressed. You can put a shirt and tie on, but you're still wearing shorts or something, and I would still put on shoes just because having shoes on, I felt like I'm taking things seriously. Is that too
Oh, that's interesting.
you know what I mean?
So you could wear shorts, but if you had your shoes on, you were set.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and maybe the reason I'm thinking of this is because I am not wearing shoes right now because it's so early in the morning.
Wow, you don't take our podcast seriously. You heard it here, folks.
Right. So if you sense a lack of professionalism with this episode, it's because I am currently barefoot. So we'll see if that makes maybe it'll improve it. Maybe this will have to be the new. We'll see how things go.
We'll just retitle our podcast to Barefoot with Josh.
Oh, and I'm sure that would greatly.
That'd bring in a whole new audience.
I was going to say that might be. I don't know where that would go. I'm not sure I want to know where that's going to go.
No.
Oh dear. But it is a busy and crazy time, right? So
True.
What's going on in the news?
Well, honestly, even less than we had last week or last time.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's just still that September lull and everything. So the only thing that I've got written down is that FanX is going on right now. We're recording this September 17th. Hopefully this will be out close to then, so you could still have a day to check out the Salt Lake City FanX.
Or just reflect on your recently formed memories of fond experiences in downtown Salt Lake City.
That's true. If you guys have any experiences, please leave them in comments below. We'd love to hear about them. You've had some interesting experiences, right?
I have. Well, and we kind of started talking about this last time.
Yeah.
And it's still something that I think about quite a bit because, it is a fairly significant event as far as, yearly opportunities go that are movie related and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's also kind of the feeling like I've kind of done that a couple times, and when I've gone back it's mostly the same thing. And so if you have different celebrities that you'd like to see. In fact, I think of course I'm sure I'm going to blank on his name as I'm thinking about this, but from Cobra Kai, the one who played Johnny Lawrence, Billy Zabka was going to be one of the guests, and I noticed that and thought, oh, that might be kind of fun to go meet him. But it almost seems like, from the perspective of the standard attendee, the question of attending is there anyone there I want to see / meet / purchase an autograph / so many slashes photo from, it's either that or it's the opportunity to the cosplay stuff. And so and obviously with the other stuff I have going on right now, plus the lack of incentive, I decided not to go, not to attend. Which is not to say that I have not had very interesting experiences in the past that might be worth still giving it a future try here and there. I've had a lot of bizarre celebrity encounters over the years, not just through fan conventions, but through a variety of just kind of everyday encounters. And
Interesting. So it's not even like an
yeah,
occupational hazard sort of thing.
no, no. I mean, part of it is that obviously. I mean, that
Yeah.
once I started doing more of this kind of thing, those opportunities started to kind of multiply. But even previous to that, I would just kind of seem to have. It seemed like, and I don't know, maybe it's just that the nature of running into a celebrity in quote unquote real life is just inherently bizarre because you're taking something that you're accustomed to seeing a person. It's kind of like when you're in the third grade and you see your teacher at the grocery store. You're in the wrong place.
That's
You're not
true.
supposed to be here. This is weird. This is my no, non-school world, and why are you here in this?
Yeah.
And so, but that it does seem like as I go down the list of different celebrities I've run into in whatever context, they always seem to be just a little bit awkward, a little bit weird. And one of my first ones, this is actually a twofer because it involves two different celebrities. Yeah, so years ago, 2007, my sister and I went to the San Diego Comic Con, like the original big, Comic Con.
Hmm.
And one of the things I really liked about it, and this might also be kind of a criticism of the current state of things. One of the things I really liked was that your price of admission basically entitled you to free autographs from a certain range of guest celebrities. So, because you know how you go to FanX and they have like the big celebrity area, right? And there's all the
Hmm.
curtains around and everybody's kind of got their own little booth. Well,
Yeah.
so and I honestly I don't know if this is still the policy in San Diego or not, but when I went in 2007, the policy was any of those official guests were obligated to give you a free autograph,
Huh.
which was kind of crazy when you think about how much people are paying for them now,
Oh
right?
yeah. No, I love that at at FanX for
Yeah.
sure.
And so, yeah, so there was this, kind of this who's who, of varying degrees of celebrity and stuff. And
Yeah.
I just kind of took my program around and got a half dozen. I think I met like Boomer from Battlestar Galactica and
God.
Joni from Happy Days, and just different little examples of kind of pop culture figures. And I don't know, maybe it was just something about this. There was some kind of a 1970s theme apparently that year, but the one, but this is what tripped me up though. And this is where things get kind of funny. Is they had kind of the product floor part of the convention where it was businesses promoting their figures and drawings and posters and just kind of the merchandise area.
Hmm. Yeah.
And of course there were a bunch of celebrities scattered through that area as well. And one of them was David Prowse, who some of our listeners might not know. He was the body of Darth Vader, right? So James Earl
Hmm.
Jones was
Yeah.
the voice of Darth Vader. David Prowse was the body. And so I thought, oh, cool, I'll go get David Prowse's autograph, right? And so I just kind of wait in a little line or whatever, and I'm not even sure there was a line. And I give him my program, and he signs it. And it's like to Josh, David Prowse, the real Darth Vader, or something like that.
Cute.
And and then he goes, you can pay the lady over there, and just kind of indicates to his left somebody at a cashier, little cashier stand. And I'm thinking, pay what? You know,
Um,
I thought this was free. You're at Comic Con. You're one of the guests of Comic Con. And as it turns out, what I didn't realize was that there were like the official guests who were in kind of like
mm,
that special area, but then anybody who was affiliated with some third party you know uh, vendor, you
that's not.
actually would have to pay them.
Oh
And so I'm
no.
so I'm like, oh no. And it was $30.
Yeah. Yeah.
And bless his heart, not not what I want to pay $30 for a random little David Prowse autograph on the corner of my program.
Yeah.
And of course, me being me, like I wasn't gonna like, how wow, this is and so okay, well, fine. I kind of wish I had known that, because I either wouldn't have done it, or I would have had him sign like some nice 8 by 10 that I could frame that might make
Oh
it a little
yeah.
more worth it, right?
Yeah.
And so I begrudgingly go over and okay, pay the $30, and and so having learned that, my sister and I are now aware, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess this was just kind of a rookie mistake, and we go to uh, we're just so we're continuing on
Hmm.
through the convention, and we see LeVar Burton, and it's like, oh, it's Reading Rainbow guy, Geordie LaForge, and we should
That's
go.
awesome.
Let's go meet LeVar Burton because
Yeah.
he's just kind of hanging out, but he's also at one of these third party vendor booths, and so now we're thinking, okay, but you know what? We're not going to ask him for his autograph because we don't want to get stuck paying a bunch of money for a bunch of random autographs.
Oh yeah.
And so instead, we come up to him and we meet him like, hey, LeVar, it's good to meet you. Can we get a picture with you? And he's like, sure, that'll be $10. And we're just, come on! and so, yeah,
Uh,
so like, oh, and then, but then you're into the situation where it's like, oh, well, never mind, right? You can't just, oh, we don't like you that much. We'll see you later, dude. We don't want to be rude, but instead it's like, okay, well, how about we get the picture together so it's just like $5 each for me and my sister and I can
yeah.
split it.
Yeah.
And so now we have in our family archive we have this photo of my sister and I with LeVar Burton that our only memory of that encounter was just him charging $10 for the opportunity to to get a photo with him.
Oh
and
goodness.
and I don't know, like, because I feel very kind of torn on the whole thing because, like, I understand that especially when you might not have had some meteoric career where you're making millions per film and all this kind of thing, you got to
Hmm.
find a way to pay the bills.
True.
But at the same time, a lot of these people did make a lot of money, and so it's like, really? Do you really have to charge for these little things? And of course now, and that's why I say I think this is kind of relevant to our FanX discussion is that I mean, $10 is dirt cheap for to get a photo for with most of the celebrities that they have at these things now, and I know people are paying $100 plus for a lot of them.
It's crazy. And like, so this was like my thinking. Plus also, poor starving college student here.
Exactly.
We're evaluating like, do we want to go? Because like we love the experience and everything. But just like paying the money to get in, we're like we wouldn't have any money to do any of the things that we got in for. You
Right.
know?
Right.
Because like
Yeah.
it's expensive to get in, but then if you want to buy any stuff from the vendors, get any autographs,
Hmm.
pictures, like it's all going to have a price tag on it. That's what I'm saying. Like I think that was great that you got to um, get some free signatures with that
Oh yeah.
flyer, but
Yeah. No, and I didn't appreciate, I mean, I appreciated it, but not as much as I do now because I
right.
realized that wow, that actually was kind of cool that they had a couple dozen people there that you recognize, and,
Hmm.
and one of them was somebody that maybe I'll if we make a habit of me sharing my awkward celebrity experiences, I'll save this one for a future episode. But yeah, but I mean it was really cool, and I again being a photographer, I kind of see the price of admission as the opportunity to go around and take pictures of some really interesting cosplayers and stuff like that. But yeah,
Totally.
I mean if you don't have that, then it's kind of, well, here's your entry fee. Now go spend $100 to have a 45-second encounter with a celebrity that you like or something. And I don't know. I mean, because I've had friends who do this all the time. So anyway,
Well, Josh, I hope we get to keep hearing about some of your weird celebrity encounters. I know you've hinted at a few with me, so I look
right.
forward to hearing more of them in the
Yeah, they
future.
keep coming. They keep coming.
They keep coming. We'll have new updates to come, I'm sure. Um, no, but I'm just thinking, that's it for news. But it's kind of funny because we have this reverse issue this week as opposed to our last episode, where last time there were no new releases really, but a lot of news, and now we have no news, but there actually are some
Yeah,
new releases that kind of like sprung up out of nowhere, I feel like.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are a couple of releases of note. I mean, one of them, if I'm being honest, I didn't cover when it initially was released, and so we're kind of catching up.
True.
But the one that we're going to talk about that is coming out this weekend is the new Clint Eastwood movie, which is crazy to say in 2021.
Right?
You
I was
know,
just thinking that,
yeah,
yeah.
Cry Macho is what it's called, and he directed it and produced it, and of course stars in the lead role. Now the movie itself is named after a rooster, so the rooster is not the main character, but it is the name of the movie. It's Yeah, no, I wish I could just keep on laughing because sadly well, I don't know if I would say I was disappointed by this movie, but I
Hmm.
I was not I didn't go in with super high expectations because I was a little suspicious and my suspicions were confirmed, sadly.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is I really like the setup and the premise for the movie. It's basically the story of a retired horse trainer who is asked by his former employer to go. They're in Texas, and he tells him
Hmm.
to go down into Mexico and retrieve his this boy. So the employer, who's played by Dwight Yoakam, who's a old country star.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, his son, he has a son. He's this wealthy kind of sketchy guy, so he's got a lot of power and a lot of wealth, and he's had drama over the years, and he has this teenage boy with a woman who lives in Mexico, and he tells Clint Eastwood's character that, hey, she's a bad influence, the boy's being abused, please go down to Mexico and bring my son back. And
Mm.
and and so the premise is Mike is the protagonist's name. So Mike goes down to Mexico to find the kid, get him away from his mom, and bring him back to America.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of this road trip movie essentially, and I like the idea, and there are individual points in the movie that I did like.
Hmm.
The problem is that it should have been made 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I feel like such a heel for saying this, but the 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 hard thing is that Clint Eastwood himself is just not believable in given the events of the plot and the behavior of the characters. It's like this would work if he was like 70 years old, but not 91. And
That's interesting.
he's just, yeah, it's just, because it's not action packed. It's not like he's doing like crazy fight scenes or anything like that.
But why are you asking a 90-year-old to venture down to retrieve your son? And
Yeah, and the mother is kind of like, she's not a crime lord or anything, but she has like henchmen, right? And so she's wealthy herself,
mm,
and so kind of like the plausibility of all of this, it just doesn't really come together. One of the things that just kind of threw me off was that so Mike gets his mission, and there's a quick scene of him crossing the border, and then the next cut is him in the town where the mom and the boy live.
mhm.
One thing leads to another, and he gets the kid, and they're on their way back. And so you think, okay, well, based on what we've seen before, this shouldn't be a very long trip, right?
Mhm.
But they spend weeks traveling back, and it's like, how long did it take? Where is this? It just, I don't know. There were a lot of little things like that that just kind of threw me off. I mean, obviously, the main story is the journey back,
Yeah.
but just like the geography of it and the logistics of it in my mind, I struggled with. And then it just, I don't know. Like I said, this makes me feel so bad because, like, I love the fact that Clint Eastwood has been able to do such cool stuff so far into his career and into his life.
Hmm.
But this movie and this character, just thinking, oh, this is just a mismatch, because he just it's too distracting, and it's unbelievable.
It's interesting.
And so again, I really like the concept, but there are just problems.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so not the movie that I would hope for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's just what it is.
Do you
So
think you would have enjoyed the movie, like just focusing on the story, if someone else played the lead role? Or do you think there were just too many other problems too?
and I guess, well, so there were other problems. I mean, there were definitely problems with the story and with the acting
Mm.
and certain performances and things like that, just little details. I mean, I guess this is a very minor spoiler, but when he goes to pick up the kid, and he first just kind of talks to the mom, like the mom tries to seduce him, and it's like, what? And it's just, yeah, so it's very, I don't know, because I think, again, 70-year-old Clint Eastwood, I think, would have been awesome in this and would have been perfect.
Hmm.
But he's just a half step slow enough with this that it makes the actions of the other characters too unbelievable to really buy into. And it's just bad timing, because I mean, obviously there are other there are other actors that I think what this might work with,
Hmm.
at least in that sense, because like I said, there were other problems too.
Yeah.
It's one of there's a very long stretch of the movie, and that's another complaint that I've heard, is it's just kind of a slow movie. But on their way back, they stop in kind of this small town, and they wind up kind of like settling in for a couple weeks, and Mike becomes a horse trainer again, and stuff. And so, considering how dangerous it has been to stop at other places along the way, because of the police and because of the henchmen and who are on their trail, there's kind of this question like, why are you just arbitrarily stopping here? I mean, you have to get this kid to safety, right?
Yeah.
So keep moving. Like, if it was me, and my feeling would be, okay, I've got the kid. Let's just keep on driving until we get back to Texas, right? I mean, it seems like that would be the rationale, is like, okay, we're not wasting any time here because we're in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so, but they just kind of take their time, and, oh, well, let's stop in on this town and see what's going on at the local restaurant, and like, come on, like you just escaped one of the one of the henchmen. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
so that's that.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see though why there's a lot of like confusing stuff and especially distracting. Um, Man, I've only ever seen one Clint Eastwood film.
One.
I know. That's weird.
Which one?
Fistful of Dollars,
Okay.
which that one was really fun. So like, I don't know how this would compare to all the rest of his acting. So I don't really have much to judge because in that movie he's mostly just quiet and or fighting. So like,
Right. No, and I mean, and I have not seen. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many. Uh, I definitely have not seen all of his movies.
yeah,
I've seen a number of his movies, certainly enough to kind of recognize, kind of, because
and there's
for
quite a
better or,
few.
oh yeah, well, I mean, he's been making movies for what, 60 years now.
It's true.
But I think that he's kind of one of these stars that you could kind of say that Clint Eastwood plays Clint Eastwood, right?
Mm,
Like there's kind of a thing that he does, and it was it started with those movies that you're referring to, like Fistful of Dollars and
yeah,
Good, Bad, and the Ugly and all that kind of thing, and so
yeah.
it's kind of like this silent, steely-eyed old west character, which is great, and I think the movie that I enjoyed the most was the original Dirty Harry.
Mm,
That one was actually, because I had heard all the classic lines from it for years. You know,
Yeah.
do you feel lunky punk and all this kind of thing. So certainly this movie, Cry Macho, he's a version of this character because he's still kind of wizened, steely-eyed, and kind of somewhat menacing, but at 91, just not as much of a threat.
Hmm.
And I don't know. He's not trying to play the same character as, you know, the man with no name from
Yeah.
those Sergio Leone movies, but yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
It's just making me
yeah.
think like, I think he as an actor, kind of like how you said, he kind of just plays himself. I think it's because like he is so iconic, right? And so I just wonder like
Right.
in the future, I think he could still do a lot with westerns, but maybe more in
Hmm.
like the role that would kind of suit his age. So like, as the mentor character, which he kind of did with Million Dollar Baby, right? So like
Yeah.
playing that kind of
No, and
role.
right, and I think that's what it is. It's just a mismatched role
Hmm.
where you know, because he's still a great actor.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I mean, he's got a great presence and stuff. It's just you have to, you know, once limitations start happening, you just have to decide what to do and where. And I just felt like this one was just asking a little too much to the point where it was distracting. And then just with the other issues in the movie, it just didn't add up to a, you know, a win. It was
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
fair. Well, there is a movie that I feel like was a win for this
Okay.
week because I got to see Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, and
Right.
I wasn't going to see it because I'm boycotting Marvel right now. And I'm trying
Ooh.
to be stubborn about it. Like I still haven't seen Black Widow or anything like that because I'm just like they're only going to keep making them if I give them my money cuz
Now this is the first I've heard of this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, because we've talked about Marvel stuff and kind of the state of the Marvel universe, but I don't
True.
remember you actually saying that you were boycotting
Well, okay.
the good people of the Walt Disney slash Marvel. So let's hear about
Well, it's
this.
just funny because like it is more of a recent thing because like What If
Oh, okay.
came out and What If is the only Marvel show I haven't seen, so I feel like my boycott is kind of in word only for the most
Ah,
part because
okay.
it's something that I say I'm going to do, but then I end up watching everything anyways.
And then you go back.
I know I always come back for more. No, it's true. And as if my dollars are going to make a huge difference. But so I'm a total hypocrite with it. But Shang-Chi like I didn't want to see it. I'm like it's just going to be another one of those movies that they're trying to make a movie for every possible character they can.
Yeah.
And that is definitely not what this movie was. So I'm glad I saw it anyways cuz now it might be my favorite Marvel movie right now.
Wow.
Yeah, like I mean, I love Captain America. I love everything they did there. I just loved that. Um, but like it was still kind of a superhero movie in a way where it's like there's still
Hmm.
some cheesiness. They did go. I don't know. I think they tried to add more nuance and complexity in the later films,
Hmm.
but by then, like, that Marvel fatigue is starting to come on, so, like, I definitely liked the first Captain America more than the other ones, even though
Oh
I
yeah.
think the other ones had better storylines.
Gotcha.
But, like, this one, I think because they did something different, like, they added a lot of style, they actually created a really good score, which is a complaint that I've heard a lot with Marvel movies. Like their music's kind of generic. This music was beautiful, and combining that superhero style with the martial arts thing, and I think they just had a really good director behind it who made sure the choreography plus the camera movement just married really well together. Like it was such a fun experience. I loved seeing this movie. Did you get the chance to see it?
I did. I saw it yesterday afternoon, and I I'm still trying to decide if my reaction had more to do with the movie or with so you mentioned Marvel fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm feeling just general superhero slash comic book movie fatigue.
Oh, that's fair.
And and at the same time acknowledging that I mean everything I see from Marvel is quote unquote good, right?
Yeah.
There's always a standard of production, and I think that I kind of tie this into Disney for the most part as well, where you feel like you can reliably expect a quality production, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not it's something you want to see multiple times is is another question. And that's
Mm.
the first thing I can say about Shang-Chi is that even while watching it, I'm thinking, this is fine. I don't think I'm going to be interested in seeing this again.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
it's kind of already at that level for me.
Yeah.
I mean, so for anyone who has not either already seen it or familiar with it, I mean, the basic premise is that you kind of have this protagonist hero named Sean, who he lives in San Francisco, but he's basically been in hiding because he is the son of this kind of this mystic hero type character who, well, actually, I'm not even sure hero is the right term, but his father is the possessor of these 10 rings, which are kind of like bracelets, right? And they give you special
Mhm.
powers, and and so he's basically living in exile, and this is the story of him reconnecting with his past and going back to uh, I mean it's an origin story, right?
Yeah.
But and you kind of hinted at this in your comments earlier. What I think is really interesting about this movie, and the thing that I find most unique about it, is that it's an attempt to take the, again, kind of the superhero comic book movie and blend it with the martial arts movie.
Yeah.
And in certain ways, I think that that's quite effective
Hmm.
and well done. I do think that I found it jarring sometimes when one scene would be kind of like your traditional Marvel wisecracking characters, borderline funny, and then you kind of have like the heavy melodramatic, magic and wonder of the martial arts genre. Like
Mm.
that didn't always fit together very well
Yeah.
for me. But I don't know, and I should say this first because I'm watching the trailers beforehand, and as we've discussed before, I don't watch a lot of trailers, and so I was always kind of annoyed by that. But I'm watching the trailer for the new Venom movie, and
Uh,
it's the one. Oh, now they've got Woody Harrelson, and he's going to play Carnage, and this, and I'm just looking at this trailer thinking, it's just another one. It's a
yeah.
new bad guy. There's a new bad guy. There's some crazy CGI. They're going to have a fight at the end, and that's
Hmm.
it, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say like this fatigue, this burnout with it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I felt like I seeing a lot of that in Shang-Chi as well. Now, obviously,
You
like
felt
there
that?
was
Okay. Because,
yeah
like, for me, I feel like that's why I liked it, because it was so different. Like, their narrative approach, because they do a lot of jumping back and forth between the present and the past in a
yeah
way where, like, you're slowly learning more about these characters. And, like, I think the villain was actually very complex because it's his father, right, who has these 10 rings.
right.
But like the more you learn about the past, the more you understand the present. And in my written review, which you can check out on the Utah.film website, I talk a lot about that where, you feel for him, but you also fear him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting, especially considering the culture. And that might be another reason why I'm biased. Like, I love a lot of these actors. Like, Aquafina is probably my favorite actress in
She was
Hollywood
great.
right now.
No, and yeah, we had kind of touched on this when we were kind of putting together our itinerary for today. But no, she was great.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed her. She's really funny. I've enjoyed her in everything that I've seen her in.
Hmm.
The actor who, oh, the protagonist, Sean. I don't have his name right in front of me. I He didn't really do a whole lot for me. I mean,
Mm.
I thought that the character of his father was complex and interesting, like you say.
Yeah.
More interesting than most of the others. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that kind of by the time we're getting into the third act, and okay, now here's going to be the big CGI showdown, and
That's true. They did do the
without
CGI
spoiling.
showdown. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it kind of turned into a Godzilla movie at the end there, and I just, it just, again, well, even little things like, you know, and I don't know, push pause if you don't want to hear a minor spoiler, but like, there's one point where they kind of do this, what's kind of becoming a cliched turnaround, where one character says to another, we need to work together and do this, and the other one says, no, we will, blah blah blah, and then something crazy happens, and the person immediately goes, okay, we'll work together, and it's supposed to be kind of like this funny.
That's fair.
It's like, oh my gosh, I'm just, so much of this, it's almost like the movie by itself, I think, is fine, and it's really really well produced, and it's got some really spectacular CGI, and yes, and some characters are interesting, and bless her, Aquafina, you want to put her in everything just because she's
Oh
fun,
my goodness, yeah.
but in the context of like my Marvel slash superhero movie fatigue, and see, I actually came up with a metaphor for this finally. I finally, and which isn't perfect, but I don't know. You've seen all the Lord of the Rings movies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how at the end of Return of the King, after the final battle, and I guess 20 years ago, we can spoil this now. The ring is destroyed.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, and Sauron, his eye explodes and all this kind of thing. That's the big finale. That's the end, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the movie goes on for like 20 minutes, half hour, and there's just like one additional vignette after another where,
Yeah.
okay, now we're going to have like the celebration scene. Now we're going to have them back home trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Now we're going to have them leaving at the Grey Haven, leaving with
Yeah.
the elves. And there's this and this and this.
There's like 5 separate endings for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And a lot of the vibe I get from all of this post Endgame stuff from Marvel feels like another superfluous story where it's like, oh, that's fine, because and again, I mean, maybe we're in spoiler territory here, because there's the bonus scene after Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
and because it's an origin story, right? So that, okay, well, the new hero is going to be ready, good, off and running and all this kind of thing, and now we're going to kind of plug him into the greater MCU, and one of the characters is talking about, yep, it's a long journey ahead, and a big road and all this, and I'm just kind of thinking, we just finished such a long road. Do we have to start another one? It's,
Yeah. No,
I
I
don't
will
know. I don't know.
say that the end credit scenes were, because there were 2 of them.
Was there one at the very end? Because
Yeah,
I didn't stick around.
there was one. Yeah, I'm glad you did.
I wasn't.
There
I
was one
wasn't
at the
sticking
very,
around.
very end, which I liked more than the other one. But
Oh, really?
even then, I wish they didn't do either. Where it's like, we're gonna see these things anyways soon.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
these are, because I mean, this movie is basically a launching point or a stepping stone for like the bigger next end game, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what everything's working towards, which is why I feel that fatigue, where it's all like, I don't want to feel like I'm reading an entire textbook for one small test out of a whole course.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So, like, it feels like so much work to get that small amount of detail that's going to be the pieces I need for the big thing. But
Yeah.
what I liked about this movie is I feel like it was good on its own. I have to disagree with you a little bit. Like, I mean, I think you made some fair points about how there's some, like, cliches and everything, because, like, it is a Marvel movie. But I think they thought through some things, like the cameos they had from other Marvel characters were really good. Like, there were some that, like, oh, it makes sense, because it's like, because, like, there's a lot of Doctor Strange connections, because, again, that whole, like, Eastern culture and magic, So, of
Yeah.
course, that's going to come in. But there's, like, one cameo, which, I mean, I don't know if it's a big surprise, so I don't want to say it, but that one, like, carried me through the entire second half.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. So,
Yeah,
there's
well,
stuff like that. But then there were also like a lot of good setups for like later jokes. So I like the ending scene where they're like, telling their friends about their adventures, which is exactly what happened
oh
at the
yeah,
start,
right, right.
And so like everything came together nicely. I think setting up what their
And
job
a
was.
and a justification for underachieving slacker
Oh my gosh, right?
young
I
adults.
I loved that. And maybe I connected a little too much to that. So maybe that was another thing where it's like I really liked that, but that was a great setup and payoff, and there was a lot of good setup with they worked as valet attendants before going on this crazy journey
Mhm.
because they are slackers, right? But like driving actually comes back later. You know
I
what I
know
mean?
Danny. I know Danny. I know Danny. But this is my point though. Is
Yeah.
that they're slacker, parking attendants, but one of them just happens to be the offspring of a mystic warrior, 1,000 years old, who has, and that's, I think, the simplest way that I would put it is that on its own, I think the movie is totally fine. Like I don't call it a bad movie. There are
Yeah.
some things I didn't like about it. There's some things I really did like about it.
Hmm.
On its own, it's fine. It's the greater context that I'm just struggling with right now, which is just
Yeah.
feeling like this is just, and without going on to a full discussion of it, because I think we could.
We could.
What Martin Scorsese said a while back about superhero movies not being cinema, and the idea that there's just an inherent difference between kind of like the large scale entertainment, razzle dazzle CGI on the big screen versus a more meaningful film with weight and with consequences, and
Yeah.
and just like I enjoyed watching these characters when they were interacting, but once the fight started, it's just okay. Well, it's just more magic, and nobody's going to die. Nobody's really going to get hurt.
Mm.
It's kind of nobody's going to die who you wouldn't think there's a decent chance that they, could, right? Because, well, it's an origin story, and so we're setting up into a superhero, so we know this guy's safe, we know this person's safe, and there's just, I don't know, after seeing so many of them, there's just this feeling like, you know, again, like we have this big CGI battle scene at the end,
Hmm.
and the only people getting hurt are the people we don't know, right? The people that are kind of the expendable borderline CGI characters themselves,
Hmm.
and then there's one character who makes a sacrifice and stuff, but I don't know, I
But
just
that one was kind of set
predictable.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, it's nothing that hasn't been according to formula, and the
Yeah.
formula has worked for a long time and will probably continue to work.
Hmm.
But so that's why I say, like, in the greater context, I just kind of felt like, yeah, aside from, kind of a couple things here and there, I just feel like I've seen this, and it's not, I don't have any desire to see it again, and the good parts aren't enough to kind of make up for the fact that I don't know. I'm just,
It just
I'm
feels too
I'm
Marvel.
I'm I'm ready to well, I'm just ready to take a break from the big new superhero movie that's coming out, and oh, now we're gonna have this character that okay, all right.
Yeah. No, and,
So
and
so
that
that's
that's
why,
definitely been my struggle with it too, for
yeah.
sure. So if we had more tragic deaths in Marvel movies and
Well,
higher stakes, maybe then. No,
but
I'm
wasn't
totally kidding.
no, but wasn't that what made Endgame so good? Was that
Oh, that's a good
there
point.
were actual sacrifices, I mean, there from the time at the beginning of Infinity War when they killed Loki, and granted Loki's died like 3 times,
True.
you know, there's the level of tension is just not there most of the
Mm,
time,
yeah.
because when you have like these characters with infinite powers that are just kind of like banging on each other,
Hmm.
right? What's going to happen? Nothing. Hulk can come in and take Loki at the end of the first Avengers movie and smash him into the ground repeatedly, and he's not dead. He's just lying there in a daze, and it's a
Yeah.
joke, right? There are no
Yeah.
stakes. There's no, and so it's not that they have to kill everybody. It's just you have to feel like there's actual risk here, and part of that I think is CGI, part of it is the nature of superhero characters, but it just, yeah, I've just seen it so many times now that
Hmm.
it doesn't engage me,
Yeah.
and 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 like I said, it's not even just Shang-Chi by itself, because by itself I think it's, as good as at least the, kind of the middle of the road Marvel movies of the last 10 years.
Hmm.
But, you know, I think coming at this time and in this context, in the aftermath of Endgame, there's just kind of this feeling like, I really really enjoyed that first ride, but I don't have it in me to do another 10 years of, especially when,
I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But anyway,
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I still like it. I think it's because maybe we're wanting to see different things with Marvel. For me, it's more like the thought and the effort, because like I think they did spend a lot of time with the choreography, especially. Like I think maybe I'm just kind of annoyed with Falcon and Winter Soldier, where like the fights were just like strong guy punch and then other strong guy punch, and it was so lame. But like this one, like it was beautiful. It was artistic. It was
right.
really planned out, and I think the characters, they each had
And
great arcs. So like
yeah,
they did something very unique here, but like you said, it has that Marvel style to it. So like I think if you're getting tired of that style, it's not going to be as exciting as it was for me.
yeah, and to your credit, or, to your point, I do think that if I was more of a fan of martial arts movies, I
Mm,
would be more entertained by this, because you're right. There's a lot of choreography. It's much more. Instead of just kind of bang zoom pow, it's the art of, because martial arts, I mean, it reminds you of a dance as much of as a fight. I mean, just the
true.
the way that, and so if I was more of a fan of those kind of movies, I think I would have enjoyed it more. I personally, I appreciate that, but I don't really seek it out.
That's fair.
And I think that's another thing that kind of, it'd be easy to talk about after this movie, is to think about, oh well, how do you feel about martial arts movies? What are your favorites? What are your,
Mm,
is this a genre that you're in? Because it sounds like, I'm familiar, because I was thinking about this, and it occurred to me that, I've seen a lot of what would be considered like serious, legitimate martial arts movies, like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and
mm.
Hero, and a couple
Hero's
of these
my
other ones.
favorite.
Yeah,
I
and
love
and
Hero.
and they are beautiful.
Hmm.
They are wonderfully choreographed, and they are, very much works of art, right?
Hmm.
But it's never really been my thing. Like I haven't rewatched any of them. I haven't sought out new ones. And when I think about, what's your favorite martial arts movie, the first thing I want to say is Karate Kid.
Which,
Which
to be fair, that one's
right,
awesome.
which is and is not a martial arts movie, right? It's very much, it's
True.
about, the style, and a lot of the philosophies in there, but in terms of being, like, it's not Hero, right? They're
Yeah.
drastically different
Yeah,
things.
he's not actually flying through the air or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, this
Standing up
it's
sideways on the wall. Yeah.
right. But again, like, the reason that I love Karate Kid is not because of the fight scenes, right? Those are just kind of
Mm,
like ancillary. They're just kind of move the plot along. It's
yeah.
the great characters and the story and their interaction, and the humor and the way I relate to it, and so,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about that. I was thinking, oh, and then, like, Shanghai Noon was a lot of fun, but that's not really a traditional martial arts movie either.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about the biopic, the Dragon, the Bruce Lee story was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
But then, like, the closest I came to a favorite, like, this is a more traditional martial arts movie, was still a tribute to martial arts movies, because it was Kill Bill. It's like, that's one that, okay, well, here,
Mm,
they have a lot of, especially that scene at the end of part one, very much a tribute
yeah.
to 1970s martial arts films, and that's like the closest I came to finding one that was, you know, I don't know, like, whatever Hero and Crouching Tiger are that Karate Kid is not. I felt like Kill Bill was the closest I get to that area that I would consider like a favorite movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm super glad you brought up Kill Bill actually. Like for me, at least recently, I've had so much interest in this like Asian culture and films kind of hitting Hollywood right now. And that's why I say like Aquafina, I just love her and everything she's in. We talked a
Yes.
little bit before about The Farewell, which she was in, and
Oh my gosh, yeah.
that really showed her her acting chops there, like absolutely incredible. So like I mean, I'm with you. I haven't seen like a lot, but I've seen a lot of the influences, you know? And I think
Uh-huh.
you know, now we're recognizing a lot of these actors are super talented. Like you can have a completely or almost completely Asian cast and they can put on a great entertaining film, right? We
Yeah.
saw that with Crazy Rich Asians, and then you know just coming from there, like we see so many more of them now, which is super exciting. But like you know, there have been these influences for as long as films have been around, and something I found interesting as we were looking at the movies for this week with Cry Macho and Shang-Chi is that like especially like with westerns and these martial arts films, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
right.
inspiration between the two.
Right.
Like, you know, we'll come out with some western, and that inspires some director in Japan, and then we see that, and then we get the
And
Matrix over
vice
here.
versa, right? Yeah.
Exactly, it works back and forth. So, I love the martial arts films. I think in that way, where there's a lot of history on both sides, a lot of influencing one another, taking bits and pieces. So I think Kill Bill was a great example of that chain, you know?
Yeah. Well, because I mean, it had very explicit, you know, like there's this old west cowboy aesthetic, you know, especially with like the flashback scenes to where you're seeing
Yeah.
like what happened to the bride during her wedding and all this kind of thing, and then you have, you know, even David Carradine's character was basically portrayed as a cowboy, you know,
Yeah.
like Kill Bill is basically a cowboy, and yet you also have Lucy Liu and the Crazy 88 and all this, and no, I think I don't know. It's really kind of funny to see how unintentionally, right? Because we didn't do this by design, but the
Yeah.
two movies that we're focusing on really do have like this unique kind of sisterhood in terms of, you know, their genres. Because Cry Macho doesn't really have any connection to Asian, you know, cinema or anything like that.
Yeah.
But westerns and martial arts movies have like these really cool ties, which is, you know, and again, I think what was one of the fun things about you know, Shanghai Noon. But
Combining
no,
those two.
the one that just occurred to me was, and regrettably, I still haven't seen the movie that inspired this, but I love one of my favorite westerns is the Magnificent Seven, and that I believe, you know, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was a remake or an adaptation of the Seven Samurai, which I think was a Kurosawa film. If I want to
That sounds
say
right.
again, you know,
Yeah.
tell me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I mean, and so one going to the other and vice versa. You know, there's definitely this, you know, and of course, you know, I think most of us know that Star Wars had a lot of inspiration from, you know, from Japanese and, you know, Asian movies and things. So it's kind of fun to see those parallels, and that's why, again, that's why one of the things that I do respect and admire about Shang-Chi is the way that it's taking that martial arts genre and blending it into this other kind of superhero thing. And maybe it's just that if I wasn't so burned out on superhero movies, and if I was more into martial arts movies, maybe I would have appreciated it more. But
Yeah.
I don't. You know, and
No,
so
that's fair.
I think that's kind of where that landed. But
Yeah.
maybe we'll have to talk more about westerns sometime too, because I actually just rewatched Silverado, which is one of the first westerns I ever saw, probably the first western I ever did see. And you know, sometimes you revisit a movie that you saw as a kid and you think, oh, well, I just like that because I was a kid and I didn't know any better.
That's
But
fair.
this was not one of those. Like Silverado, such a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
But Yeah, yeah. So we.
Well, I do have a Western to recommend for our
Oh,
Utah
please.
movie highlight
That's right.
for
We
this
still have to come
episode.
up with a name for that. We still have to
Well,
decide on a name. What are
I
we going
have
to
an
call this
idea.
thing? Okay, let's hear it.
I was thinking we could do something like Utah Road Trip,
Okay.
where it's like maybe we can highlight where it was filmed and like when, and it's kind of like, come along this trip with me back down memory lane, and I don't know. Maybe it's too cheesy. I don't
Well,
know.
hey, I love the idea of a road trip. I could use one of those for sure.
Oh,
We just
exactly.
we'll get some sponsors, and we'll turn these into like actual road trips, and
That'd be so
and
fun.
document where things were filmed. That would be.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen the compilation of like pictures people took in the Utah locations, and then they'll hold up like a little snapshot in the picture of like the original film?
I've seen people do that for different
Yeah.
movies and in different locations. I don't know that I've seen specific Utah examples, but I've
Yep,
totally seen
there's a
like
whole one for Utah. It's so
kind of a
cool.
then and now. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's super fun. So I think that was also kind of making me think of that because I think people will sometimes go on trips, just to see those original locations, right?
Oh yeah. No, I've done it with, most when I first would spend time in Chicago, I was always trying to find spots for the Blues Brothers.
Oh, of course.
You
Yeah,
know,
you
there was
gotta.
yeah.
Oh, and I think I'm maybe thinking road trip a little bit too because the movie I have to recommend is about a very long trip. It's called The Covered Wagon. It's a silent film from 1923. So it's, super old. And I watched it completely silent because on YouTube it's available, but they don't have like the original music that they had to play along with.
Oh
So that
wow.
was kind of a unique experience. But it was a 90-minute film, so it wasn't too bad. But just thinking about all these movies and this discussion we're having on this history and the back and forth influences, this film was like Hollywood's first Western epic, and it was huge. So this was kind of like that original super American pioneer kind of story, and it was the highest grossing film that year. It was big, and part of what was super crazy watching it was everything they did for the set. Like they enlisted so many extras, including some actual Native Americans, and I think this film, of course, is kind of old, so there's some things that haven't
It's
aged well. But it's funny because they haven't aged well, I think, in terms of accuracy, but it was
uh-huh.
never disrespectful. So these Native Americans were actually like some would like attack, but like some would like help them out, and they would make deals with them and help them across the river, and they had some humor and personalities, like in a way where they weren't lesser than, they were just like a part of the world. So I thought that was really cool. But of
Nice. And
course,
it
like,
and it's filmed in Utah.
and it was filmed in Utah, exactly. So yeah, it was filmed in Garrison mostly, and then Antelope Island. There's this famous
Really?
buffalo herd scene, which was another interesting thing that they did because, like, buffalo were kind of extinct, right? So they had a couple of them, but then they also had statues, and they had them like they were moving them in a certain way, so it seemed like this huge herd, even though when this was filmed, they
Yeah.
didn't have the amount that they needed to do it. But yeah, they had so many animals. Two horses like drowned during this big crossing
Oh
the river
geez.
scene. I know, like this is a film that could not be made today, which is kind of fun. Like to have that many people and that many covered wagons, like authentic ones, that many animals. Like it'd be impossible logistically now. So it's kind of fun to look back and see, what they were able to do uniquely then. And I mean, it's kind of a funny story. So I was reading a review and someone called the script predictable, which made me laugh because it's like, well, yeah, it was the first one to do this, so like
Yeah.
every film copied this afterwards. But
Right. Right.
you've got the love triangle and the sleazy fiance, but the dashing hero who suddenly comes into the heroine's life, and it's it's funky, but it was a really fun time. And to tie this into our discussion, this was the favorite film of the producer who created Godzilla and he also produced a lot of Kurosawa films. So it's kind of that trading
Yeah,
between cultures, right?
that's very
So
cool.
yeah, I just wanted to highlight that one. Just kind of a fun film. So that's your
Oh,
homework for
very
the
nice.
week.
That's a great choice. Great
Yeah,
choice.
yeah,
Well, excellent. I think we covered some pretty exciting ground. Some pretty
yeah.
dynamic. We got covered some good stuff, and I don't know what's coming up. What are we looking forward to here?
Hopefully more news coming up
You
in
feel
2 weeks.
news-starved.
Yeah, no, there's a local film that's coming out that I want to touch on next time.
Sounds good.
That's a comedy about like COVID-19 kind of, and not in a way where it's laughing at
I
the
was gonna
pandemic,
say,
um,
like,
but it looks like just kind of funky sister road trip movie actually, where they're out to save grandma during the pandemic to take her from the nursing home and make sure she's safe at home. So
interesting. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll see that by next time.
Nice.
New
And
releases, I'm not sure. It might just be a bunch of slasher films like the next Halloween movie and stuff like that.
no, I know there's some bigger ones that are on the way. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but I know that
Yeah.
that new Bond movie is supposed to finally come out, and I think
Oh, that's
the new
right.
the new Venom movie, and so yeah, we'll see what we get by our next episode. But in the meantime, you can go and read Danny's review of Shang-Chi, and you can imagine what mine would say since I haven't written anything. Um, I'll be. I was debating about whether to write one up formally for Cry Macho, and we'll see if I get to that. But
Yeah. Fair
if
enough.
if you're listening to the podcast, you're getting basically what you would get from the written review from me. So
Yeah. Same here.
yeah. Well, thanks for spending time with us, and be sure to give us some feedback. You got ideas for how to name some of these crazy segment ideas we've got, or maybe even suggestions for new ones, or want to contribute your thoughts to anything we have discussed, or if you want to just rip into me for hating on superhero movies and all that stuff. But until then, have a good one.